The year 2008 will be remembered as the year that the whole world has been changed. It is marked as the beginning of one of the biggest crises since the Great Depression. So what is the reason behind these crises? Is it about bad decisions? Usually there are so much reasons behind these crises like bad debt and complex financial instruments, lack of poor oversights, etc. So this crisis started when the US homebuyers started defaulting their loans, leads to a quick tsunami that spread across the world. So it really affected real people, real family and the whole economy. So this is not just the number of crises. So in this documentary, we will unravel the fact that leads to this crisis and how it impacts on the world and also on India. And also what are the measures were taken to prevent another catastrophe on this scale.
Down 1.7% here, a loss of 37 points or so. Apple shares are just getting hammered this morning.
We're down by between 3 and 4.5% generally across these markets. Let's talk about the speed with which we are watching this market deteriorate. We're red everywhere, essentially, down by 4-5%.
We're down over 16%. Dow at the same time has fallen about 18%.
The stock market is now down 21%.
At its core, the 2008 financial crisis was a story of ambition, risky financial product, and a deep-seated belief that the housing market would never crash. Banks began to issue subprime mortgages, loans given to individuals with lower credit scores, assuming that the housing prices would keep rising. These mortgages were bundled into mortgage-backed securities, a financial instrument that was considered safe because it spread risk across multiple loans. As the more of these securities were sold, there grew more demand for new mortgages, leading to increasingly risky loans being issued. When homeowners began to default, the entire system began to unravel. A market once driven by confidence was now fueled by fear. When Lehman Brothers, a 150-year-old financial institution, filed for bankruptcy in September 2008, it sent shockwaves to the entire financial system. Panic set in, credit market froze, and within days, the stock market around the whole world began to crash. Banks were on the verge of collapse, and the economy went on freefall.
How much can you see here? How's the time? Hey!
A Friday afternoon in June last year.
Look, you know what? This thing has changed so many times. I'm just reading what you want me to read.
A titan of Wall Street prepares to address his staff in New York, London, and around the world. He wants to put an end to rumors that the firm is in trouble. Crisis? What crisis?
Every one of you should feel confident and proud. Our firm is strong today, and we will emerge from this cycle even stronger. We've done it before, and we will do it again.
12 weeks later, the bank went bust.
Global impact of the 2008 crisis exposed vulnerabilities in economies worldwide, showing just how interconnected financial systems had become. When banks and financial institutions in the US started to fail, it wasn't just their problem, it triggered a domino effect across countries. Globalization meant that businesses everywhere depended on the health of international financial markets. As soon as lending dried up in the US, European banks faced liquidity issues and Asian markets saw steep decline in investment and trade. This wasn't merely a financial issue, it affected the global supply chain and trade route, directly impacting jobs and everyday lives. In addition, it highlighted the critical role of consumer confidence. Once people began fearing for their savings and future earnings, they pulled back on spending. This in turn affected businesses that relied on consumer demand, creating a vicious cycle. Governments were forced to intervene quickly, but the road to recovery was long and fraught with challenges, especially in Europe, where austerity measures took a fall on public welfare.
Be careful of the cure. That's all I'm telling you here. I just worry with this, Jack.
Oh, I agree with that.
Jack, look at what's happened. Look what's happened, Jack. We rescued AIG or whatever we called it. The same with Bear Stearns, Freddie and Fannie. The market has a near-term pop when that happens. Oh, it's great, right? We've problem behind us. You know what we're going to do? If we do this $700 billion thing, same thing. Market's going to be elated. Oh, thank God we got this behind us. And then, boom, it's going to happen again. They're going to be waiting for their next dash for cash. Why does the
housing
government
values-
need to do that? Why not
Because
let the
very
markets,
frankly,
however hellish it might be, and however hellish it might be tomorrow,
if
Jack,
they-
if the House
if they-
rejects this, let her rip.
Wow, let her rip. Like the hissy fit you called it on Monday.
Well, what do you call today? Is it a hissy
well,
fit over the economy? I'm saying when
it's
you
not a
count.
hissy
No,
fit.
Jack. I'm saying when
This
you
is a
count
serious-
out.
wait a minute,
Wait,
Neil.
I'm saying when you
I'm not
count out to
yelling.
the markets, Jack, is that a mistake?
This is a market.
That was the raging debate back then, and with the late great Jack Kemp. What a wonderful.
While India was somewhat shielded from the worst of the crisis, it wasn't entirely immune. The global downturn affected exports, especially in sectors like textiles and IT services. Indian companies, particularly those with foreign clients, saw their orders decline sharply. The stock market in Mumbai witnessed a dramatic fall, and the Indian rupee weakened against the dollar, adding to import costs. However, India's banking system proved resilient. Unlike many Western economies, Indian banks were not heavily exposed to risky financial products. Thanks for the Reserve Bank of India's cautious approach and strong regulatory framework, the financial system stayed stable and the country was able to avoid a banking crisis.
response to the crisis, governments across the world took unprecedented action to stabilize their economies. Central banks, including the US Federal Reserve, slashed the interest rate to near zero. Massive bailout packages were introduced to save banks that were too big to fail. These measures aim to restore confidence in the financial system and to restore the flow of credit that economies depend on. In India, the Reserve Bank acted swiftly by reducing key interest rates and injecting liquidity into the market. The government increased public spending through stimulus packages aimed at boosting infrastructure projects and creating jobs. These measures, along with the underlying strength of the Indian economy, helped it recover faster than many other countries.
Recovery plan to jumpstart job creation and put money in people's pockets. And this plan's already saved the jobs of teachers and police officers. It's creating construction jobs to rebuild roads and bridges. And yesterday I met with a man whose company is reopening a factory outside of Pittsburgh that's rehiring workers to build some of the most energy efficient windows in the world. And this plan will provide a tax cut to 95% of all working families that will appear in people's paychecks by April 1st. The second step we took was to launch a plan to stabilize the housing market and help responsible homeowners stay in their homes. This plan's one reason that mortgage interest rates are now at near historic lows. We've already seen a jump in refinancing of mortgages as homeowners take advantage of lower rates, and every American should know that up to 40% of all mortgages are now eligible for refinancing. This is the equivalent of another tax cut. And we're also beginning to see signs of increased sales and stabilizing home prices for the first time in a very long time. The third part of our strategy is to restart the flow of credit to families and businesses. To that end, we've launched a program designed to support the markets for more affordable auto loans, student loans, and small business loans. A program that's already securitized more of this lending in the last week than in the last 4 months combined. Yesterday, Secretary Geithner announced a new plan that will partner government resources with private investment to buy up the assets that are preventing our banks from lending money. And we will continue to do whatever is necessary in the weeks ahead to ensure the banks Americans depend on have the money they need to lend, even if the economy gets worse. Finally,
the crisis of 2008 taught the world some hard lessons. It exposed the dangers of excessive risk-taking and the flaws in complex financial products that few truly understood. The governments learned the importance of strong regulatory frameworks to oversee financial markets. Banks were reminded of the value of prudent lending practices, and investors they realized that markets are not invincible. But perhaps the most important lesson was that in today's interconnected world, a crisis in one corner of the globe can ripple across oceans, affecting economies and lives everywhere.
As we look back on the events of 2008, we must ask ourselves, have we truly learned from the mistakes of the past? Or are we just one step away from the next financial storm? The answers to these questions will shape the future of our global economy.